Good morning, students. Let's start part 3 of the chapter Tribes, Nomads, and Settled Communities. Till now, we have studied about what are the tribes, nomadic people, and about the settled communities. Today, we'll discuss about specially two tribal groups. These tribal groups became the settled communities and famous for their administrative systems and political activities. So these are the Gonds and Ahoms. The Gonds and the Ahoms. Ahoms. First we'll discuss about the Gonds. Gonds are found according to this map. Madhya Pradesh, Telangana, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, etc. Especially in the central highlands in the peninsular plateau region. Bihar also. This is the area of Gonds. Ahoms lived in the northeastern parts of India, and about Ahoms will study later. First we will discuss about the Gonds. Clear? So Gonds means Gondwana, the people who live in Gondwana land, that is concerned to the peninsular plateau region. Gondwana means a country inhabited by Gonds, the place where Gonds people lived. This area known as Gondwana, and Gonds lived in Gondwana, right? After that, these Gonds areas and regions were divided into clans, further divided into clans, and each clan was ruled by a Raja or Rai. It means each clans used to have one king, small king. So these were the small kingdoms of the Gonds. When Delhi Sultanate became weaker, then many big Gonds kings used to dominate the small Gond kings. For example, in Akbarnama, this was the book Akbarnama written by Abul Fazl during Akbar reign. So according to Akbarnama, there was a Gond kingdom named as Garha Katanga. Garha Katanga. Clear? This was the Gond kingdom, Garha Katanga. It had 70,000 villages. It has 70,000 villages, and it was divided into various kinds of administrative units. So let's understand the administrative system of Gond kingdoms. So this is the administrative system of kingdoms. During that period, these small or big kingdoms were divided into the gads. Clear? So these were the further units of villages. Units of villages known as gads. So kingdoms were divided into gads, and gads were divided into chorasis. Each chorasi consisted of 84 villages. 84 villages. So each chorasi consisted of how many villages? 84 villages. You have to remember, gads were divided into chorasis, and each chorasi was divided into barhods, and each barhod consisted of 12 villages. 12 villages. It means each chorasi consisted of barhods, means 12 villages, means one chorasi consisted of 7 barhods. So in this way, this was the administrative system controlled in centralized manners by the king or the Gond chief. Getting my point? So this was administrative system. Now we'll know about the society of these kingdoms. So this is the next topic, the Gonds society. What was the social structure, or what kind of society was there in the Gonds kingdoms? So equal social classes were there, but gradually these equal classes, due to the emergence of the new states and new nature of the state, the nature of society that was equal based on the equal social classes converted into unequal social classes. Brahmins became more influential because they were granted with the land, big parts of the lands, by the Gond Rajas. It means Gond Rajas used to provide the land as grants to Brahmins, and they became very influential under this kingdom. After that, Gond chiefs used to call them Rajputs. They wanted to become Rajputs in the nature as Kshatriyas, Gond chiefs. For example, Amandas. Amandas, he was the king or Raja of Garha Katanga, about which we have studied before a short while. Garha Katanga. He was the king of Garha Katanga, and he called himself Sangram Singh. He converted into Sangram Singh, the name of Sangram Singh. His son Dalpat, the son of Amandas. Dalpat was the son of Amandas. Dalpat married to Durgavati, Rani Durgavati. She was the daughter of Salbhan. He was the Chandel Raja of Mahoba. Chandel Raja of Mahoba, Rani Durgavati. So, because of death of Dalpat very soon, Rani Durgavati ruled Garha Katanga with brave and with significant role. She played very significant role in ruling this Gond kingdom, especially against the Mughal emperors, right? So, in 1565, before 1565, the Garha Katanga kingdom extended due to the good ruling system and good governance of Rani Durgavati, but in 1565, under the leadership of Asaf Khan was the governor of Mughals. Mughals attacked on this kingdom. Rani Durgavati ruled on behalf of Bir Narayan. Bir Narayan was the son of Durgavati. Bir Narayan was the son of Durgavati and Dalpat. At that time he was only of 5 years, but Rani Durgavati was defeated and this kingdom was controlled by the Mughals. She died in a place of, means she did not surrender, right? She preferred to be died because she was very brave and she could not be think about this, that this kingdom was under Mughals. Stop. She preferred to die rather than surrender. So in this way, this was very strong kingdom, clear? But with the strength, it was very wealthy kingdom also. There was a big trade and commerce system in this kingdom, and it was very rich kingdom under the Gonds, because it was very famous for trapping and exporting the elephants to other kingdoms. It had a big amount of coins and other precious metals which were taken by the Mughals after defeating this kingdom, and most of the parts of this kingdom was provided to the uncle of Bir Narayan, Chandra Shah. Clear? So after this declination of this kingdom, Mughals control in this region, right? But for some time this kingdom was alive and survived in spite of defeating by the Mughals. So dear students, I hope that you understood about Garha Katanga and the Gond kingdoms and the society and administrative system, and particular about the rule of Garha Katanga. Now we'll discuss about the Ahoms. The next topic is the Ahoms. A closer look about the Ahoms will study about. Ahoms were the people who came from Myanmar in 13th century to Brahmaputra Valley. Today the region of Assam and Meghalaya and Arunachal Pradesh. So these parts were the major parts inhabited by the Ahoms. Clear? So they came from Myanmar to Brahmaputra Valley in 13th century. In 13th century. Clear? They made very strong and powerful state by subjugating and suppressing the old political system controlled by Bhuyans. So they defeated Bhuyans and they changed their state into powerful state. After that they annexed the another kingdoms like Chutias in 1523 and the kingdom of Koch Hajongs and Hajo 1581. So in this way they defeated these powerful kingdoms and they made very powerful kingdom. In 1530s they used to make and use the firearms, and after that by 1660s they started to make gunpowder and cannons that they used in the battles. So in this way they became very strong and powerful, the Ahoms. The Ahoms faced many invasions during their reigns and during their kingdoms. In 1662, under Mir Jumla, Mughals attacked on this kingdom, attacked the Ahoms, right? Despite their brave defense, the Ahoms were defeated and controlled by the Mughals. So in this way we studied about the Ahoms. Now we should have a look on the further system of the Ahoms. As we have discussed that Ahoms came from present day Myanmar to Brahmaputra Valley region. This is the Brahmaputra Valley region where they defeated Chutias and Koches, and after that they controlled this area also, Garos, Khasi, Jaintias. So Ahoms were very powerful at that time. Further discussion about Ahom. The Ahom state depended upon forced labor. What is the forced labor? Forced labor means the labor in which the people are forced to work. Those forced to work for the state were called paiks, right? So these laborers were known as paiks, and according to a census, the population was counted, and each village had to send a number of paiks by rotation. In rotation, the paiks were called to send the paiks. The villages were called to send the paiks. People from heavily populated areas were shifted to less populated areas. Ahom clans were thus broken up. By the half of the 17th century, means around 1750, the administration became quite centralized. Almost all adult males served in the army during war. Whenever the war used to be fought at that time, so the male members took the part in the war. At other times, they were engaged in building dams, irrigation systems, and other public works. So they played the role of soldier as well as the workers. The Ahoms also introduced new methods of rice cultivation. Ahom society was divided into clans or khels. There were few castes of artisans. So artisans in the Ahom areas came from adjoining kingdoms. A khel often controlled several villages. The peasant was given land by his village community. Even the king could not take it away without the community's consent. But most of the time, peasant was given land by his village community. Originally, the Ahom worshipped their own tribal gods. Each community had a tribal god, and they used to worship their god. During the first half of the 17th century, however, the influence of Brahmans increased. Temples and Brahmans were granted land by the king, as we discussed in the Gond kingdom also. In the reign of Sib Singh, ruled from 1714 to 1744, Hinduism became the predominant religion in that particular area, but the Ahom kings did not completely give up their traditional beliefs after adopting Hinduism. So although we can understand that Ahoms adopted Hinduism, right, in spite of this they continuously followed their traditional ritual practices. Ahom society was very sophisticated, means very complicated. Poets and scholars were given land, grants. Theatre was encouraged. Important works of Sanskrit were translated into local language. Historical works known as Buranjis, you have to remember, historical works known as Buranjis were also written first in Ahom language and after that in Assamese. So this was the system in which we can know about the society of the Ahoms. So different kinds of people were there, and different works were encouraged by the kingdoms and by the kings and rajas. So this was about the Ahom and the Gonds in this video we discussed. So I hope that you understood the topics discussed in this video.